Let's talk about the National Examination Council, NECO, and it has released the result of the 2025 Senior Secondary Certificate Examinations. And Kano State has emerged as the top performer nationwide. According to the council, candidates from Kano recorded the highest number of credits in core subjects, including mathematics and English language, making the state the standout performer in this year's chat. The announcement has drawn widespread attention, both for the academic feat and for what it signals about the state's education system. The Kano State government has vowed to sustain this momentum, pointing to years of policy interventions, investment in teacher recruitment, and expanded access to free education. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reported on this earlier this week.
Reactions and counter-reactions have trailed the recent release of the 2025 NECO result, where Kano was announced as the best performing state for the first time since the inception of the exams 25 years ago. The Kano State government says that the feat was as a result of the declaration of the state of emergency in education, where the state voted 30% to education in its 2024 budget.
This historic achievement is a direct result of the sweeping reforms and the sustained investment in the education sector by this administration. Scoring 60.26%. So which means Kano is leading in NECO examination.
For the civil society in the state, they say that it is not yet uhuru, as there are very conspicuous gaps in the education sector that needs to be attended to if this feat must be sustained.
Why are we troubled? The government needs to do more, because it's not only celebration. The government has to sustain and do more, because there will be expectation next year. And one other thing is, we have seen what led to this is improvement in teacher training and retraining, because once you take SUBEP, once you take KSSMB, there is improvement in teacher training. I could remember even us within the CSO's world, we have taken charge in terms of maybe training 10 teachers, 2 teachers, closer to where your organization is, and different development partners has taken teacher training and also production of material, learning material as their priority.
Governor Yusuf says that he will continue to work with relevant stakeholders and is open to constructive criticism that will lead to the improvement of the state's education sector. In Kano for News Central, Emmanuel Bagudu.
Stellar reporting there by Bagudu. Past results have shown wide disparities among states, often reflecting uneven investment in infrastructure, teacher training, and also student support. Kano's success now brings both praise and scrutiny. Can the state maintain this lead, and what lessons can Nigeria draw from this? So to help us unpack this, we're joined by Mustapha Muhammed, Chief Press Secretary to the Kano State Governor, and we'll be expecting Emmanuel Bagudu as well to join us. Hopefully he'll be joining us before the end of our session here. Mr. Mustapha Muhammed, thank you very much for joining us this morning, sir. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me on board. Thank you.
So please, if you will, what specific policies or investments does the Kano State government believe were most decisive in achieving this result that we see here?
Well, honestly speaking, there are lots of decisive actions by the state government that led to this success, led to this great feat, you know, which is the first of its kind in Kano State for 25 years. You know, initially, let me give you a background. Initially, during the campaigns, the governor promised that education is the priority, and is second priority, is third priority. So the governor is really have more concern about education, even during campaigns. So when he got into office, he quickly looked at the problems, you know, associated with the education at that time. You know, there are so much deficits in infrastructure, so much deficit in terms of shortage of teachers and other, you know, atmosphere for learning. So he said the best way to go about it is to declare state of emergency. That's the first thing he did. And when he declared state of emergency, he organized a workshop with Plain Partnership for Learning for All for Nigeria. That had a workshop, for 2-day workshop with all the stakeholders across the globe to chart a course for this policy thrust, which has led to these achievements. You know, the government looked at 3 key areas: the issue of the deficit of teachers. You know, there are lack of teachers at that time, and then there was severe infrastructure development then. So government quickly started with the renovation of schools across the state, and then building the new ones, and adding more classrooms. And the government found out that some peoples and students were sitting on bare floors at that time. So the government immediately, you know, weighed into that and provided furniture to the school. About 100,000 furniture were provided to schools across 44 local government. You know, that's really rolled back the issue of sitting on bare floors. And then the issue of teacher, because you cannot construct or make a befitting environment, but you have to look at the teacher itself. You have to encourage him. You have to motivate him. That motivation really goes a long way in training, retraining of the non-teaching and teaching staff across the state. We have more than 10,000 now who underwent trainings, and they are given tools, including collaboration with partners in education. So these are the key areas where the government, you know, did and will continue to do that so that we get more successes in education.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mustapha, for that. My question now would be, you mentioned that the government is very passionate about education. So apart from the urban centers, apart from the schools that, you know, within where people can see, the plan, did it involve the schools in the rural areas?
Yeah, sure. The plans is really taking care of the rural areas as well. It's not just that the government is concentrating on the urban centers, no. But what I want people to know is that we have thousands of schools across the state. So it's not easy at just all at once that you provided all what you want in all that. But it should be a gradual, you know. And we had a lot of people are saying that there are schools that are still people sitting on the bare floors, or there are still schools that have a roofing toner and all that. So it is not a one-day affair. It is a gradual process because the government inherited a lot of deficits in all of these areas. So the schools in rural areas were also being catered for because all the local governments now, the project is ongoing, building of classrooms across all the local government, 44 local government in the state. So it's not only, the work is not only within the urban centers, it includes rural areas as well. Because I said earlier on that it is not overnight that you can overcome all these problems, all these challenges. We have to face it squarely. That's why the governor increased the budgetary allocations on education. In 2024, the governor budgeted 29.97% of the total budget. And in 2025, the budget was jacked to 31.5%. This shows a seriousness of the government to look into the problems and challenges of education and see how we can move forward.
Mr. Mustapha, I can tell, you know, you're very passionate about, you know, the work that's happening in Kano. And, you know, education experts often, you know, argue that the spikes in performance is sometimes hard to sustain. I want to ask you, do you think that the difference in this situation is because of the reforms and, you know, the way the governor has handled what's happening in Kano and all the activities that are happening in terms of making sure that, you know, you have the right teachers and all that? So are you going to accredit all that is happening to the efforts now?
Yeah, honestly speaking, basically it's the efforts of the government because the government has gone on into a holistic approach on that problems. It's not only moving to one direction, it's right, left, and center. It touches the teachers, it touches the infrastructure development, it touches about the conducive atmosphere for learning. You understand? Look at the teacher, for example. If you don't motivate a teacher, for example, whatever you have provided, it could not, get in what you want, for example. But the government keeps motivating the teachers in terms of training, as I said earlier on, and then about the payment of their own salaries as it went due. And there were no cuts like it were before, because that fear within the teachers that they don't have, that every month their salaries have been cut in the last administration. But this administration stopped that, and they paid at when due. And now, another thing that encourages the teachers is about the gratuity that the government is now paying. There are lots of backlogs of the gratuities, billions and billions of naira, and the government is settling it. So now the teachers are having a very, very comfortable that, yes, when I retired, I will get my gratuity and I'll get a pension as I so and do. All these kind of encouragements is that will make us to sustain the tempo on this. And I believe if we continue, which I believe the government is really, really, really concerned about education, we will continue with all these steps so that we maintain this tempo.
Now, Mr. Mustapha Muhammed, you paint a very beautiful picture, and I know that once you incentivize people, they do more. They're willing to put in more. So I'm happy to hear that teachers are actually getting what they deserve here on earth instead of, like they say, your reward is in heaven. However, performance, they say, is something that is very critical. It's very hard to sustain it. So how will the Kano State story be different from any other state that has topped NECO rankings in the past? How will it sustain that trajectory?
Well, I think the issue is about determination of the government. If the government is determined about the policy thrust and the political will of the government, will let that to happen, honestly. Like I told you earlier on, the governor has passion in education, and then he copied from his own predecessor, the former governor of Kano State, Dr. Musa Konko, so who had done very well in education then, and he promised that he would step into his shoes. And that's what is happening now. So I believe in the next 4-6 years, for example, I could imagine how the Kano is going to be in terms of educational development, because this is just 2 years and some few months, and we have seen this kind of transformation in education. So I believe if the government continues to probably 6 years, we believe there are lots and lots of development in education. I could imagine how the state will be. The answer is a great, great, great position.
Would you attribute this success also to the continuity that you've experienced in Kano State when it comes to the change of governance? From Kwankwaso to the current governor, that handshake, do you think that that continuum is responsible for the good ratings that we have now when it comes to education in Kano?
Yeah, not only education, honestly. Almost all the people-oriented projects, done by the former governor, the NNPP national leader, Dr. Rabi Musa Konko. So it's been continued. Look at the foreign scholarship; it's been continued now, and a lot of people have been benefiting from that. The students are coming back in batches. So not only on education, on health sector and infrastructure development, on everything that are people-oriented projects. This government is really keen about that. So I believe it will continue, and then the people will continue to reap the benefit of this political will of the Kano State government under the administration of Alhaji Abba Kabri Yusuf. We are very concerned about that, and I believe the government will continue with the tempo. And I'm telling you that success is always coming around us.
I'm sorry, I'm going to go again with another question here, and this question has to do with inclusivity. The girl child. How much focus is being put on the girl child? In northern Nigeria, there are many arguments that the girl child, education for the girl child is not respected as much as what it is for the boy child. So what efforts are being put by the Kano State government to make sure that children who are girls are also adequately provided for when it comes to education, and supported and encouraged?
Well, honestly speaking, this administration of Alhaji Abba Kabri Yusuf focuses on that girl child education because it really encourages girls to go to school. The first thing that the government did was realize that the girls are finding it difficult to move around from their locations to schools. So government provided buses. About 70 of the buses are moving from one place to another to take them to schools. And when the school closes, they'll be taken back home. So, and also provision of uniform and other instructional materials for the girls. So the government is only keen about that, and is encouraging the girl child education. That's why a lot of girls now are in school compared to the previous administration. If you check the statistics, definitely, I don't have it on head, but I know that this kind of motivation from the state government had really helped girl child education in Kano, and I believe more and more is coming. Like what I heard from one of the experts on education saying that the government has to do more. Yes, we are willing to do more, and I believe the governor will continue to do more, including all the stakeholders that are partnering with state government. I believe the sky is the limit.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mustapha. Do hold on. I think Mazino would have a question for you, but we're now joined by our news correspondent, Emmanuel Bagudu. Emmanuel, good morning. Can you give us an update? You made a report of this, and we can see that, you know, Kano, they're happy and they're cheered up. Can you tell us if there was a difference? Did you observe any gaps between the policy claims and the life, as in the reality that is being lived by the students on the ground? Emmanuel?
Unfortunately, I think we might have lost Emmanuel there again. Hopefully he'll join us again. We really needed to get that aspect of things out regarding the claims that are being made and the realities on ground. I have no doubt that what is being claimed actually should be. It's a very interesting fact here, Mr. Mustapha, that education is being put forward. Now, what samples can other northern states take from Kano State to make sure that education is on the forefront of their agenda when it comes to providing and development for their citizens?
Well, I think there are lots of things that the neighboring states and other states in Nigeria need to copy from Kano. The issue of determination, the issue of taking care of teachers, showing that they are very important, and then motivates them in terms of training, because there is nothing that builds a teacher or any worker than training, workshop, train them, give them tools. You know, let them know that, yes, they are very important to that drive. So that will make them have a zeal, you know, to teach very comfortably. And also from the side of the pupils and students, you also show them that you really have more concern about them. Lots of thousands and thousands of pupils and students were sitting on the bare floor. So we provided a three-seater bench for them. Over 100 of that. If you multiply 3 by 100,000, you're talking about 300,000 seater, 300,000 pupils and students that you liberated from sitting on the back of that embarrassment. So all this kind of thing, trying to show that everybody is important and that education is very key in all your policy thrusts. So I believe if the governments copy from that, they'll do more on that, and the gaps, you know, in education definitely will be reduced, especially looking at the budgetary allocation as well. You know, a lot of states don't give much priority to education in terms of budgetary allocation. And there's no way that you can succeed without a funds, without investment in education. If you want to succeed, you have to put more money into education, because there are lots of things that you need to do to give quality education. That's what the Kano government has been doing under the leadership of Haji Abba Kabir Yusuf. And I believe if other states copy from that, definitely the educational development will be great all over Nigeria.
Right. I want to believe that we have Emmanuel back. Emmanuel, if you can hear me, good morning. And can you tell us, based on your report, although Mazino has said he's not so sure if there's a gap, but can you tell us on your report, what was the mood like for the parents and the students who, you know, noticed that, you know, they made it, they had their 5 score? And, you know, did you observe any gaps between the policy claim and the reality that the students are living on the ground?
Oh dear. Apparently we can see why we didn't have Bagudu from earlier. The networks are really bad from where he is.
Yes.
But if you know Bagudu, he's probably somewhere trying to put together another report in the far ends of Nigeria. Thank you, Bagudu, for trying. I want to say thank you very much, Mr. Mustapha Muhammed, for also joining us for this conversation. Mr. Mustapha Muhammed is Chief Press Secretary to the Kano State Governor. We appreciate that you took out time this Sunday morning to be with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir.